All right, welcome to the Casey catch up. It's been a little while, but had a few races happen recently, and Nick basically kicked our asses. So I thought, you know what, Nick, we got to get him on the podcast, and I want to learn more about Nick. So I feel like podcast is the best way to get to know people. So Nick, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Casey catch up.
Thanks for having me, James. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's I guess it's been a long time coming. You've had a few like sort of smoky results, like in the local races over in Hawaii. You've beaten Andrew and Edo and the boys that did really well in the Koa Kai. And
Mhm.
we're just chatting, and Josh was saying to look out for you because you were coming over for the Northern Beaches race. And to be completely honest, I was like, yeah, Nick's I can see how he can be good, but Andrew's got the runs on the board. He's going to be the guy to watch. And you showed me wrong. You showed everyone wrong, and you actually smoked us. Like there was literally daylight between you and then the rest of the pack fighting for the podium. So congratulations.
Thank you.
um, I don't even know when you started foiling. So do you want to give us a bit of a background about yourself and how you got into it?
Yeah, so a little background. Obviously, I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, um, but I didn't surf much growing up. I actually, in high school and in college, I ran track and played football. I was the quarterback for my high school and my college, and ran track. I pole vaulted. I didn't have a huge background in the ocean. My dad would take me surfing, over summer, but I actually didn't. I didn't spend a lot of time in the water. I was actually not the best surfer, and I started surfing every day during COVID. Obviously, there's nothing else to do, so we were out in the ocean all the time. So I picked up surfing. I stopped football because obviously we weren't at college, and I went to school in California, Los Angeles. But that's when I picked up surfing, and the surf isn't always good. So I saw Jack Ho on his little like hoverboard, and I was like, whoa, what is that thing? So I'd go out with my sisters every day, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pick up one of these. So I picked up one on Facebook Marketplace for a couple $100, and I just immediately was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So every day for months, I just grinded and just learned how to foil. But yeah, I didn't have a big background in surfing. I mean, I'd like to think I'm athletic, but yeah, that's when I started foiling, and I haven't looked back.
So how far along, like how good a surfer were you? Because I get people that I've never surfed before and they want to learn to prone foil, and I kind of steer them away from it. So were you able to catch waves and go across the wave?
Yeah, I was able to do that. But I mean, if you saw me paddle out on the North Shore with a shortboard, you'd be like, oh, this guy's pretty new. I can't hit crazy turns or do anything super nuts.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I can handle myself in the ocean. Yeah.
yeah. So it's, I guess, good for people to know, because people are like, I've never surfed before, and you learnt via surf foil. Like a lot of people learn via wing foil or e foil,
Mhm.
or there's so many different avenues to get into foiling, but surf foiling was your
Yeah,
entry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then my dad actually,
Tell us what equipment you were using. Like, what was that first marketplace setup?
I don't even know the board name. It was some $200 like bar of soap. It was probably about 45 liters and 5 feet long, bright neon. And then I had a code foil. No, sorry, not code. I'm sorry.
Very
Cloud nine.
nice.
Cloud nine. Sorry, I was thinking. Yeah. I
Was
had
it
a Cloud
yeah.
nine foil.
Yeah.
So it was some Pelican or I forget. It was a really old. It looked like a semicircle, an entire
Mm,
half of a circle, and it was. I thought it was the coolest thing at the time, but you look at it now, and it would be the slowest thing in the water.
yeah. I'd actually love to go. I've got it. I've got my first the GoFoil Kai that I like originally bought in the garage, and I sort of have it hanging up as a bit of a mantelpiece because like that's what got me into it. And I'm going to use it again one day, but I'm not. I just don't want to, because everything's come so far. But it'd be good to have like like in the surfing they have like the old school sort of boards, like a twin fin or single fin comp. So it'd be really cool, I reckon, to run like a foil comp that was like prior to 2020, which would be,
Yeah, if you can find any of those wings these days.
I know, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
they'd be like collector's editions at some point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And okay, so you learned to surf foil, you learned to foil via surf foiling, and then when did the downwind foil thing happen?
Yeah, so yeah, obviously Jack was my main guy that brought me into this world, but I picked up a 6.0 flight board, and it's in Hawaii. It's just like boxy rails, 6 foot board, 90 liters. And I just started paddling around in Waikiki, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is like pretty easy. And Jack wanted to send a Hawaii Kai run one day. And I think I had just gotten the Lift 170 high aspect and that flight board that also looked like a bar of soap. It didn't even move in the water, and you'd paddle and it would just spin in a circle. And I would sink it actually if I was just standing still. So you kind of had to paddle and get going and pop up, and none of us knew what we were doing. But that was like 2021. We thought we were pioneers of the sport because like only Simeon and like only a few of us had sent a Hawaii Kai run.
Yeah.
And we thought it was like, we said a little prayer at China Walls before we sent. And we were like, okay, we got Simeon on the ski, like just in case something happens. And we were super nervous, but yeah, that's how we got into it in like 2021. And then,
yeah. Awesome. So yeah, it's amazing how far board designs come too, right? Like, even around that same time, I think I was using like a 6.0 by 24, and that, like, if you look at that now, one, it's super short, but also super wide. As you said, it's like a bar of soap. It's just like, it's a plug to paddle. But once up, I guess it kind of worked. And I feel like the boards matched the foils. The foils were slow, so the boards didn't have to be so fast.
Yeah.
It was much harder then. Everyone who's learning now, it's gotten easier. But tell us about your learning journey. How long did it take? How was that first run?
Yeah, it took a long time for sure. I think my first run was 3+ hours, and you could probably lay down and paddle that in 3 hours, maybe less than 3 hours. So I would sit there and just, you'd get exhausted. I don't know how your learning process was, but I would, struggle to get up and sit there and just go and just be just physically exhausted. Cause it was super hard to get up when I first started. It was, for everybody, it's like a really demanding sport to have a pop up.
Yeah. I think, like we're just discussing, the boards prevented us from that sleek the entry. Like, we couldn't get up. Like, I remember the first proper run I had was on it was actually on one of those square boards, like like a blown up version of the Tomo, like they look like an iron. And
I think Kalama had a board like that too.
And I was using the Kai foil, and basically the foil was too small, the board was too small, and the conditions weren't enough. So just even now, I think I'd struggle to paddle that setup up. And it can. I think equipment's come so far, but also our knowledge of what works and what doesn't has come so far just from trial and error. So,
and I think the people that learned on those older setups have an advantage now because they were training on plugs, and now to have a 8-foot board that can glide through the water is like, wow, this is night and day.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think it's almost a different sport, but I think that having the background doesn't hurt. We've struggled, And then so you're on the Lift 170, and so now you're sponsored by Lift, so it's like it all kind of when I guess through COVID, then you were training up. I know a lot of the Voyager boys were sort of looking at Molokai to Oahu was like that big race. When was your first race?
The Molokai was 2023 was my first one.
Ever. Yeah. You didn't do, wow. So straight in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say I'm pretty new to the sport and understanding the tides, the currents, the winds, as a Hawaiian, you kind of know the water, and as a waterman, you kind of learn all that stuff as you go. But that was brand new to me.
Yeah. And had you done any like ocean races? Because you've done a bit of triathlon too, or like you are now?
Yeah. I do a lot of triathlon training, so biking, swimming, and running, obviously, but no ocean races besides those short swims.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think the swimming helps you understand, or you think swimming it's just so different?
No, it's so different. You're just swimming in like a lake or like some body of water that the currents and the tides have nothing to do with the race.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand what's going on or switch gear or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah.
do you think? Like, so looking back at 2023 M2O, how did you go? Like, what was your race like for that was the original course, I guess.
Yeah. That was, I didn't make it out to the wind line in one pump. So I was using the Lift 150. I popped up right away and was pumping as far as I could. Came down exhausted, had to rest for a little bit, probably fell about 3 or 4 times. And then, um, yeah, made it to the wall and paddled the rest of the way, probably like everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, I had no idea what to expect. I was like in the dark, I didn't even do a practice run over there, or I was only doing Hawaii Kai runs or um, things like that. So it was brand new to me. And no, it was exciting to be part of it. I forget what I finished, but I was just stoked to be, part of it and part of the crew. And, it's a big accomplishment, especially
Oh, for sure.
like stepping into it. So
Yeah, especially for being like your first ever race. It's
yeah,
like the Kona Ironman, for your first
yeah,
triathlon.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
it's a huge step. And uh, did you how I guess with training Hawaii Kai, how did you find like the middle of the channel? And you said you came down a few times at the start, and then did you make it all the way to China Wall without coming
Yeah.
down?
The second half of the race, I think I fell a couple times just cause they're different. The bumps are definitely different.
Mm.
Um, there's way more energy. I would say I spend 90% of my time at Hawaii Kai. So I have those bumps dialed and I know exactly where to go, what to do. Whereas when I was in the channel, it's like, it was a whole different, the bumps were coming. I'm goofy. So it was coming from behind me and I was confused on, whether I keep working north or take these runners down south. And, um, that was that's a big issue with a lot of my foiling is I'm, I'm in great shape. I train really hard and understand that, but just my foiling ability, surf foiling and maximizing efficiency on the foil is, um, I always need work on that. And that's what I've noticed
Hmm.
even in 2024. So
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll tell us about 2024. You obviously got a few more races under your belt, and I think you won a few of the Oahu foil races, with Edo and Andrew, competing, and you won that Oahu foil series, which was like 8 or 9 races. Um,
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I won them. Edo didn't show up to a handful of them. Andrew didn't show up to a few. I think I was
most
one of
cons-
the few spoilers that went to most of them. So
yeah,
that's why I don't want to discredit those two guys. Those guys are the man. But yeah, I think it was the same issue. I had popped up and the bumps were firing, and I just got a little. I was always hesitant on where to make my line, and I had a hard time picking a line and sticking with it. I was always working north, and I was too far north, or and then I took too many runners south, and I felt lost out there. I was just like trying to survive, and I was like figuring out where to go, and I was in great shape, but I was fine. I made it to the finish. I was fine. I wasn't even tired, but it was more about like just not maximizing my foil efficiency. And like, that's what I tell everybody now too. Everybody who's getting into it, they want to train super hard for the Molkai. And I was like, if you don't fall, you're going to save so much energy. Just work on like
mm,
understanding how to foil and like understanding how it works and how to maximize efficiency, which is like the coolest thing that I'm like diving into now. But
yeah,
if you can pop up right away and not fall and pump to the finish, you're going to beat 75% of the
yeah.
competition. I don't know if you agree with that,
I
but like,
totally agree. Totally agree on that.
yeah,
It's like, and 75%, I think you're right. But then there's, I think Edo and Andrew and yourself now, like you've shown that, look, there's one thing finishing and being up on foil, but then there's pushing the foil that you're on to the limit. And so that's cardio, but also skills reading it. And
mm-hmm.
it's if you choose too big a foil, you won't be in the race to win, I don't think anymore.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
too conservative, like you can't be defensive on your foil choice or your line choice anymore. Whereas
yeah,
2023, I was on the 860, like it's pretty much the same as the 150 lift, like size wise. And it's like,
yeah,
if I used the 860 last year, like I wouldn't have even come in the top 30, I don't think. Like
mm-hmm.
everyone was pushing it so hard, cardio wise, but also everyone's skills are up a huge level. So I don't know
Yeah.
what did you use for? I assume you used the 110 for.
Yeah, I did use the 110, and it was fine. It was really good conditions when we
Mm,
had that race, so we made it to the finish, no problem. And
mm.
like once I hit Oahu, I was like, I took a deep breath. I was like, okay, this is like what I'm comfortable with, and I mowed down a handful of guys, but I was just far behind at the beginning, so I did a lot of catching up.
Did you
But
get stuck
yeah,
in some of that boat wash at the start?
yeah, I did. I don't know what the solution is. I'm going to complain about the boats as well, but I don't know what a better solution is to that. But yeah, I got caught behind a handful of boats, and um, it's mushing up all of the energy, and it's a lot harder to read. And you try to get around it, and then you lose a lot of time going too far north or too far south. So yeah, I did both years. I actually got waked out,
Hmm.
2023 and 2024.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just got to get up faster and foil faster, I guess.
Better starts, isn't it? But
Yeah.
honestly, I think I had a good start 2024, and I still I was probably top 15, top 20, but there were still boats. Like I had to go really far south to avoid the boats, and that sort of set me up for the entire run, which it was fine, but because it was a good direct wind was good last year, it didn't matter. But yeah, the boats is a lot of people have discussed it, and I haven't heard too much from the Molokai to our organisers about it. But it's sort of this thing where, there's been more competitors than what we had, in the SUP and prone races. But the difference, I believe, is that the foils are going so much faster. The boats are having to drive faster, which means the wake is like triple as bad. So
Yeah.
personally, or I didn't find the boats too bad in 23. I had Oscar's boat in front of me, which I was pissed at. Got super angry about at one point. And then this year I had, I can't remember who, I had a bunch of boats in front, but there is an aspect that's a part of that race because escort boats can't just disappear. Um, but a lot of people have talked about it like washing machine style conditions and boats cutting them off, boats coming into them, like at them, coming from
Yeah.
the finish. So, what's been the discussion? It's your hometown. What's been the discussion on the ground about the solution, or is there even a discussion on it?
Yeah. Well, I guess there's two parts to it. And the first one is like the growth of the sport first, I think there's 100 competitors. There's probably going to be a couple hundred, and you cannot have a couple hundred boats jamming through Molokai. First of all, Molokai people aren't going to like that.
Mm.
You can't be foiling through a couple hundred boats going 18 to 24 knots to catch up to the competitors. That's not fair to most of the competitors. And then, um, it's almost there could be a danger aspect as well. And you're out there foiling, and the seas are maybe 5 feet, a couple meters, and you might not see the foiler in front of you, and the foiler falls, and you could run them over. And that might not be a big deal, but a lot of these boat captains, they don't know foiling. They're fishermen. They're watermen that may not understand like how fast foiling is and how different it is from paddling. So like you could fall and then be half a mile away from somebody, or a boat behind could run right up on you. So the discussion, I'm probably not the right person to talk about is having 26 boats or 30 boats, for example, which would cut down, by 1/3 at least, and then putting them at each mile marker on the south side. And that's if we have standard trade winds, but putting them on the south side. So every mile you're going to see a boat, and there's going to be a check-in or something. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That might not be the best solution because people are going to want photographers and filmers and live stream. People want to be a part of the event, and that's not gonna help the event. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if you have a better idea.
No, well, it's similar. Like I've discussed it with a few people, and similar thing. Like you could have, like you said, boats like on the run line, and they could be every mile, and that's or you could have like a fleet of boats on the north side, a fleet of boats on the south side, and then front and back. So picking up the back markers and picking up the front markers. And I totally agree with the media thing. Like there's going to be guys like I had a filmer on my boat this year,
Same. Yeah.
yeah, and so like it's brands want the content, like it's costing a lot, so they want something out of it. And to grow the sport, we need to sort of showcase it, and maybe that's not an option. And I think, look, I think Moller, the event could do a better job at media, and if there was a media boat, maybe that would mean we didn't all need our own personal media boats or a couple, and maybe that's a way to sort of to prevent that because if everyone wanted to be filmed, but we're back to the same problem. There's now
Yeah.
50 50 boats following all the the foiling, like the sponsored riders, and then they probably don't need escorts compared to the back markers who do need escorts in terms of safety wise. They're out
Yeah.
there for longer, and I don't think I feel for the event because it's a lose-lose situation. They take the boats away, they're compromising safety. They keep the boats there, they're compromising safety. So it's
Yeah.
a really tricky one.
Yeah. I don't know. If someone has a better solution, yeah, speak up because I don't know either.
Yeah.
It's a lose. Yeah.
I heard a rumor that they're thinking about like to avoid the oncoming boat traffic at the end. They're looking at moving it back to the old finish, but maybe finishing like further out. Just because there is a harbour there, the boats can just sort of at Hawaii Kai they can go to they're not getting in. They're not going to be driving at people, like they
Yeah.
did at 24. But I guess we'll keep our ear to the ground and see what happens. But it's an interesting one, I think, because it's not an easy solution.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's fast forward, and actually I want to talk to you about your training because obviously bike, run, swim, quarterback, in American football, and so how have you taken all of that stuff, and are you okay? Two questions. One, how are you using that to train, and the second one is, are you incorporating foiling for like your cardio side of training or more just your skills side of training?
Yeah, I think foiling is more the skill side. It's always the skill side for me. I do push hard foiling, but I think it's such a short duration of time. Maybe I do a Hawaii Kai run, maybe I do like a Alan Davis run and it's 30 to 40 minutes max. Whereas if I'm on the bike, I'm on the bike for a couple hours, in zone 2 or, running, 10 plus miles at that same zone 2. So, and doing some speed work. And when I'm on the foil, I'm always trying to like I said before, maximize efficiency and like understand like, oh, how the bumps are working. And okay, I need to be riding like as high as I can and as clean as I can versus when I'm training, it's 100% about tracking my heart rate, my speed, my output, and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, really interesting. I'm just diving into this stuff now, and I've been trying to replicate like a bike session, but on the water, and it's really hard to do in a downwind scenario because if the bumps are good, it's like hard to get your heart rate high. You
Yeah.
really like you've almost got to go up like crosswind or upwind to get your heart rate like to spike. If you're doing like an interval session, whereas on the bike, I just did a stationary bike session last night, and it was like 6 sets of 5 minutes, and like functional threshold kind of stuff. And like
Mhm.
it was the hardest session, it was so hard because you just you don't have that controlled environment when we foil. So
Yeah.
so you're doing most of your cardio stuff on the bike, and then when you're foiling, it's almost skills / fun. Is that how you?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And like 2024, the biggest mistake I made was training so hard on land. And on land, I was training so hard. I was like, I felt I was in like the best shape of my life. I was running super fast and, lifting a lot. And I felt like, okay, I'm ready for these races. And then I would get out there and I just underperformed on foil. And I was, like I said, I was fine, but I was just like physically I was fine. But yeah, my biggest shift to training this year has been foiling, just going out and either surf foiling or downwinding. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times I would choose, I enjoy running and I enjoy biking, and I love just sitting on the bike, listening to my AirPods or listening to something. And this year I'm like, okay, I need to go out and like surf foil. I need to like go and do something. And I'm always thinking about something to improve on my surf foiling this year rather than like just having fun. I'm like always trying to ride it high, always trying to, carve right at the most energy powerful spot.
Yep.
And that's been the biggest difference, I think, this year.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already paying off. So what was I going to ask? Strength stuff. So you mentioned like sort of gym stuff too. So I don't know, people are going to ask like, so you're doing zone 2 and kind of like your speed work on your bike and running. And then what are you doing in the gym?
I just lift like once or twice a week. I mean, nothing special, just like
Just
3 to 4 sets of 10 of, chest, back, legs, squats,
Yeah.
nothing fancy. Like,
Yeah. It's just doing it, lifting heavy stuff. And they reckon that there's been a lot of advice. I in Maui, there's like an older crew of kiters that my sort of parents used to be a part of, and they were like 70 and 80-year-olds that were kiting every day. And I was like so impressed. They're like literally my grandparents' age, and they were doing like learning new sports. I'm like, what's the trick? And they're like, we ride our bike every day and we lift weights every day. I'm like, you guys
yeah,
lift weights? Like this old dude, he's like doing like squats and bench press. And I'm like, man, it's like the
yeah,
fountain of youth is in the gym somehow.
yeah. It's important at that age to lift.
Hmm.
I don't know. I forget. Someone told me, but it is really important, I think, to lift at that age.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, yeah, that's good, I guess, for all of us. I think it's also important for foilers to be doing some not necessarily lifting super heavy, but like just doing some maintenance sort of stuff in the gym, because I don't know about you, Nick, but like I'm natural foot and it's really easy to be lopsided or really hard
Yeah,
to stay symmetrical just by foiling. It's
yeah. When I started biking, or when I started foiling, I noticed my biking was a lot stronger on one leg than the other. Yeah, it was a significant drawback. I was like, oh my God, this is like my left leg is exhausted.
yeah, yeah,
Where's my back leg? Or other way around. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's surfers talk about like asymmetrical body types, and they're only really riding waves for really good waves like a minute, whereas on foil we're on foil for hours for races and training for 30, 40 minutes to an hour, and that's like riding a wave for that long. So I think bit of maintenance stuff's important just to keep us so we're not walking
Stay
around.
balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well let's talk about before we go to the Northern Beaches race, I want to talk about the Oahu Fall races. You won the series, and I'm giving it to you because you got to show up to get the points. But did you race? Were there races that you beat Edo and Andrew? I thought there was at least one that you got.
Um,
Have you beaten Edo before? No one beat him
no,
before.
I don't think I beat Edo before. Yeah. I might have beaten Andrew on a few of them, but I mean, yeah, I think we're all testing gear, I wouldn't say we just,
Yeah.
that's not a prime time season race. It's,
Yeah.
trying different wings, different things and
Yeah.
different lines, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So it's a great way I love that the community, like there's more and more of these races that are sort of community led, and John Hearn's such a legend. And Simeon and Jeff who ran the Voyager race as well. It's cool that these races are happening, and I hope that they kind of grow. And the one issue I guess I have with John Hearn's races, which is just because I don't live there, is that if the conditions aren't considered good enough, the race isn't on. And it's hard for,
Mhm.
like, say I wanted to fly in for a race, and if I got there and it was, cancelled because the conditions were no good, it's like, I just think, well, what do you think about that? Like, do you think moving forward, we're going to have to keep this sort of moving window and there's going to be sort of local races, or do you think there's going to be more sort of,
Yeah, I mean, I would think I mean, again, I don't know much, but I assume it would be similar to the WSL. Like they wouldn't run pipeline if it's 1 foot, like that's not what the audience wants to see. That's not
yeah,
like the exciting, famous pipeline. That's
Yeah.
1 foot. I assume that's what they would do. And if the wind was going offshore or going, not existent,
Yeah.
1 to 2 knots, I don't know. What do you think we should do? I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't think
like the WSL's got a waiting period, right? So I think that's one way they've sort of created a solution for it. But there's plenty of WSL events that like don't run because of um because of so there's plenty of WSL conditions that do run in very subpar conditions. And like
Yeah.
I know like growing up I used to watch Bells all the time. And sometimes they wouldn't even run at Bells, they'd have to run at Winky, and other times they'd have to go all the way down the coast to 13th Beach, and it's like a beach break, and it's pretty ordinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I guess it depends on the size of the race. And I think the beauty of the local races is that they can be like locals don't want to sign up for a race if it's going to be 5 knots when the next day is going to be 30. So it's like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? But to grow the sport, I think that like a waiting period is good, and you can only create a waiting period so big for certain events. But like backup options, like so changing the location of the race to make it better, or changing the instead of being a downwind race. I was really interested. Like, so you went to Crozon too, right? For the
No,
foil.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so um, well, you're probably glad you didn't.
Yeah. No, I heard about it. Yeah. Everyone told me about it.
Yeah. So they ran in the bay, which like for us here in Sydney, like we got lots of bays, like sort of harbours,
Yeah.
but it has to be like 30 knots or 25 knots plus to be considered doing a run in the bay. The ocean, you can do a run in 5 knots as long as there's swell waves,
Yeah.
and I think they missed an opportunity there. Like they could have run maybe not even a down the coast run, but like we all when we surf all we all pump it out and connect waves and pump out and connect waves. Why couldn't you do a sup foil race in the surf where you start like beyond the breakers and then sort of go around a marker, pump back out and do laps of that? I think that'd be kind of a better option than a 5 knot flat water race.
Yeah. I mean, it would be. That wouldn't be considered a downwind
No,
race, I would assume. Yeah. That's just a different
it's like a
discipline.
surf
Yeah.
race almost, but I think it's closer to downwind than flat water, like 5 knot flat water. I
Yeah.
think, but yeah, it's a tricky one. I just
Yeah. That would be a lot more, um, like, like physically enduring. I mean,
yeah,
downwinding is just as hard too, but it's just yeah, it would just be a totally different event, I guess.
yeah, it'd be different for
They
sure.
do, don't they do that at Florida? They do some version
Yeah,
of that for the
the
Florida.
difference with the Florida one, which I don't agree with, I haven't been there, but like from what I see, the beach start just icks me. It's just like, why would you run? And like, it's almost like who can catch a wave first, who can get out first is the best, is the most likely to win. Whereas if you started from the outside, everyone's in like an even playing field in terms of uh, you can catch a wave and like you can catch a bump. Everyone can catch a bump from the start, whereas running on the sand and then having to like find your way out through the waves and find a deep bit of water to paddle, just I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem as fair or even. I guess for some reason.
Yeah, I assume that's why not as many people go to those races, just because it's not as fun as downwinding. I
Yeah,
would assume. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I was. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah. But yeah, I guess so the Northern Beaches race. Moving to that now, like we set a weekend and we only had a 2 day window, and the Josh and I and Lisa discussed like what are the options if we have no wind, and we've got a few reefs around our headland, and there was like a plan to do a basically from where we started back into where we paddled from, like doing heats of that, like having like 4 people and you just sort of pump in and use the swell and the energy. That was the backup plan. I know you came because the forecast looked good, which was
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, but like for the rest of the people that, I guess more for the locals and to have an event and to get people together, that was the plan, that we'd be doing like a down sweller, so to speak. Like we're catching swells and having to, work our way into the shore. And our idea was heats. So you do like heats of, say there were 50 people entered, you do 10 heats of 5. Um,
yeah,
and those, so the top 3 would go through to the next stage or something, and you'd have a repechage. And I don't know, that was
So it's
the
just whoever catches the first wave pretty much would win, right?
well,
Whoever.
we wouldn't start in the surf. We'd start like outside the surf, so it'd be
Yeah.
like a almost flat water paddle up. But in the ocean, there's bumps. So if you've got those bumps, you can catch. It's like a light wind downwind, but without being like with energy, with wave energy was the plan. But yeah, for sure, if you caught a good wave, you'd be quicker. But same in downwind races, if you get a good set of bumps, you're going to be quicker. So
Yeah.
that was the idea anyway. But it was just trying to come up with a solution or a backup plan should the wind not
Yeah.
cooperate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's just that's such a different event,
Oh,
than
sure. Yeah.
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 But yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess, yeah, I just feel like it's going to happen again. Like there's going to be days where, like even like Molokai to Oahu is one day. The first year I did Molokai to Oahu, it was like a 6 to 8 foot south swell, and there was no wind. Like it was glassy. I was on a stand-up paddleboard, and a bunch of the Hawaiian, like of the top 20 contenders, about 12 pulled out. Because it was just not what they trained for. Living in Hawaii, you get trade winds like in summer, like 6 out of 7 days, usually more.
Yeah.
And then in winter, you get winds like sort of 2, 3, 4 days, depending on the systems that are coming through. So like I can see coming from Hawaii how it'd be so hard to fathom a race without wind, but it can happen. It's so
What would you do on a day if the Molokai were happening and it was just dead winds?
I'd go. For me, flying over for it, and
Yeah.
like having everything organized, it's like I'd do it, and I feel like
So,
even.
like, what would be your strategy? I guess not
Oh,
you
okay.
know just
I
big wing and just pump the whole time and
think so. Like
like 40 miles.
as small a wing as I could stay up the whole time, I guess is the best way to put it. So like even last year, I brought the 1075, like our biggest R wing, to Hawaii just in case the winds. I think I took it to Molokai too because we went Maui, Molokai, Oahu, and then flew from Oahu home. So I had my biggest foil on Molokai in case the wind didn't show up. I'm glad I didn't use it because it was so windy. But
Yeah.
like it's unless and I had a chat with Mackay Creative. What's his name? Buddy.
Aaron.
Aaron Evelyn. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like, "What if you had a headwind?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, headwind. Probably we're not doing it. 10 knots in upwind for 52 k's. I don't think anyone's at that level yet, but or will ever want to be at that level yet. But
Yeah.
what would you do? So if there was no wind, but there were swells like running towards Molokai, like what would you ride? What would your biggest strategy?
Yeah. I mean, if there's energy, I would go, obviously. But if it was a lake out there, and I mean, you probably might have a different answer, but I don't think I could pump my bigger lift wing 40 miles, or 52 kilometers.
Yeah,
So I would probably pull out. I don't know.
yeah. Would you give? But
There's no, if you can't downwind.
would
Yeah.
you give it a try? Like, you got your escort? Say we got our escorts there. Would you just go? And if you couldn't do it, you just jump on the boat.
Yeah, I would give it a try for sure. I mean, that channel funnels so much energy through
Yeah,
there. So there's always a little bit of energy.
yeah,
But yeah, I was talking about if there's almost headwinds and things like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Headwind. From a competitor's standpoint, if there was a headwind, I'd hope the event switched the course.
Yeah.
But I know like
There's a
finish
lot of rules on Molokai though that I don't know if we
can
can.
happen.
Yeah.
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 Or even like just do a race on Oahu. Like I don't know, down the east coast or something, or down the like a Waikiki run. I don't know. Maybe they need a
Yeah.
backup. They haven't. The good thing is they haven't needed a backup plan because it's generally windy. But I know the outrigger canoe race, I'm pretty sure they've raced before with like a headwind, like it's different because they can go slower without coming off foil. But yeah, let's hope we get a headwind. That's for sure. But
Hmm.
uh, Northern Beaches race. Let's go back to that. So tell us about, you said you're training more on skills this sort of since Molokai, and tell us about your experience in Australia, basically.
I loved it. Yeah, it was nice. That was my first time being in Australia, and the weather was not the best for visiting Australia, but was amazing for downwinding. So, a little double-edged sword. But no, I had a lot of fun. The bumps were, pretty similar to home. It was almost like an Alan Davis run with a little bit of backwash, big ground swell, and kind of coming at that side angle that I don't know what you guys would call it, northeast or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was pretty similar to home. Good conditions, and I just can't believe how much good surf there is up the entire coast of Australia. I just want to get a van one day and drive up the coast and surf tons of different spots.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many little beaches and bays and point breaks all the way along the coast, and for sure that's our strong point. I think the winds are you got a pretty crazy. That's probably like the biggest storm we've had in summer, and it's more like a winter storm is what you experienced, where we had like it was an east coast low essentially, and it was basically we had southerly winds for 4 or 5 days, which that's how long you were here for, right? Just it was like a 5 day trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, big swell, big wind, and winter conditions essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I was scared to send by myself because I didn't know where to go. And it was,
there's a day that
wind.
that day I think you landed, or the day after you landed, and Oscar, Josh, and Perth had done one from Maroubra, and I joined them at Palm Beach to Palm Beach, Manly to Palm Beach, and that day was actually pretty crazy. I was on the 600R, and like I was avoiding going down like the bombs. Anytime I went down like a fast one, I just blew up. Like it was, it wasn't so much because the swells were so big. It was because the swells were solid, but the wind was like a different direction at like 40 knots, like just like 5 degrees off. But the chops were running across, and the swells were running like just slightly off angle, and you'd go down it, and all of a sudden you get like speed wobbles from the bumps. Like it was funneling you faster and faster. It was nuts. It was it wasn't like everyone who did that run except for Perth was like, that wasn't fun. Like that wasn't enjoyable. It was just like we're glad we finished and that we're all in one piece.
It was smaller the next day, and I still felt that way.
Yeah.
The next day we all did a run. I was like, the 110 was too much.
Yeah.
And I was getting bucked off, and same exact thing. The wind chop was coming at an angle, and it would like almost double up and drop out, and then I couldn't bring my board down fast enough on the face, so I would explode and jump off and just cover my head.
Duck to cover. Yeah. It was that was a wild couple of days, and then I think tell us about the race. The race was a bit different.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect conditions. It was exactly like I saw at home, just like our home runs, and I was like, I felt a lot more comfortable that Sunday, and that Saturday I was like, well, that was my first time doing a run, obviously in Sydney the day before. So I was more just mapping out the energy, and I was going slow, and I went way outside to see if it was way faster. I was doing that, and then I went way inside, and then I wanted to see what the energy was like in there at the end, and then kind of detonated a few times. And then the day of the race was pretty similar but smaller, so it was nicer to have a little more groomed bumps. And then I thought it was good. Got up right away, and then the end was backwashy for sure. But if you kind of power through those, it doesn't affect you as much.
Yeah. Tell us about that. So a lot of people at home here always talk about that backwash section, and I say the same thing as you. It's like the faster, the easier. So do you want to explain that?
Yeah, I would say it's like riding a bike. Like when you ride a bike slow, you're going to have a lot more wobbles and a lot more scares. There's going to be a lot of smaller wind swells you're going to have to worry about. Whereas when you're firing down really fast, you only have to worry about the larger ground swell or the larger blocks of energy. And I tell a lot of people that, like, almost when they're learning it, it's better to have a smaller wing because you can keep up with the cleaner bumps that are going in line in the right direction versus like all the small mumbo jumbo that people try to foil on and struggle with on a slow wing.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. I totally agree, and it's um, the smallest foil you can paddle up is the best option generally for a good day. I see a
Yeah.
lot of people struggle on the big wings because of exactly that. They're reading all these like backwash and sidewash and wing chop jumble, whereas there's really
Yeah.
nice groom stuff that's coming through that you can't tap into unless you're a small wing. So that's no good.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
like the bike analogy. That's good.
Yeah. What wing did you ride the day of the race?
I rode like it was a prototype, but it was a 680, somewhere between a 680 and 770, and
Yeah.
it was perfect. There was no complaints. Like I didn't make anything wrong, but through that backwash, I I just like basically in that section, like I've done it all. It's my home run, so I know it. But like sometimes you just get like this epic sort of wedge that just like pushes you through that section, and there's backwash that comes because you're on this wedge. It like sort of paves the way and it makes it so nice and clean. And I got that at the very start of that section, and then about a third in, I just got this wedge that came at the wrong angle. It was more towards me than away from me, and it put me out of rhythm. And through that section, I actually lost 2 places. Oscar and Andrew overtook me about there, and I was like, I ran the inside line, which is just what I always like. I like the inside line because I feel like there's more energy. The bumps are a little steeper, is what I find. It's a little further distance, but I just like being powered up the whole time. And yeah, the fall felt good, but I just lost my rhythm, and you lose your rhythm with the ocean, and it's like in surf comps, you see like sometimes someone just paddles out the back and a set comes to them, and other times you're chasing it, you're chasing the rhythm, and you're running away. So my
Yeah.
my start was good, and then I lost it. We actually almost shared a bump together, and you went, I was the one behind, and that I feel like that bump that you got just like you were gone. I'm like, man, I should have pushed harder to get onto that bump with him.
Yeah. 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 I think I started working outside. We
Yeah,
connected, I think, on a similar bump, right, with each other. And then I think I saw you go back inside and I was like, okay, I'm going to just work where this bump is taking me out. I
yeah,
think that's where we separated a little bit.
yeah, for sure. And that was, I think that was the winning move. Like, I lost a lot from there. It just sort of spiraled down for me. Not like I felt, when you're feeling like, you feel fit, like you're feeling strong, but like the decisions, the skills or the options you're taking are just the wrong ones.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
And
But
then you mess up on one of those. Yeah. And then you have to slow down and reset and then jump on a slow bump. And then you're just like, you're
yeah,
just
yeah,
frustrated. You had to lose that rhythm and
yeah.
like
And just, it's like, and
wait
then,
for the next big one to line up.
yeah, exactly. And I kind of I doubled down on going in, whereas probably had to work out because going in, I feel like I can keep my speed. Whereas going out, it's like you've got to work and you're losing a little bit of pace by working out because the swells are sort of pushing in. But yeah, you just took off, and like the outside line was the call because you literally, um, the results don't even show that because you came in at the wrong spot.
Yeah, I don't know if people saw that. I didn't see. I saw bright red and yellow flags, so I just came into those, and I didn't see anybody around me, so I kind of just stopped for a second, and I was like, "Oh crap! It's way down the beach." So I had to run way down the beach and go to the real finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So for those that are listening, and Nick, now, but the red and the yellow flags are like is a spot where the people where people swim. And it's like the safe spot where surfboards or anything hard isn't allowed in. And so we copped copped a bit of grief for the Hawaiian coming through the middle of the swimmers, but it was all good.
yeah. We don't have that in Hawaii. We don't.
No,
I've never
it's
seen it
different.
before, so that's my excuse.
Yeah. No, it should have been explained, I think, a bit better at the briefing, and we'll explain it again next time better at the briefing. But the and I was the same when I came around the corner. I was sort of scanning for the flags, and I saw the red and the yellow, and I'm like, okay, that's not them because that's where the people swim because I live here. Whereas
Yeah,
just literally probably 200 meters down the beach was the the purple and
real
black
finish
flags or
line.
whatever they were. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was. But yeah, Andrew was that. Sorry, Nick, you were that far ahead that Andrew, Oscar, and I like. By the time we sort of came around the corner, I think you're already on the beach. Like you were a good probably kilometre in front of us. It was dominant. It was a dominant display. We're all Oscar, Andrew, and I were like, man, just took off. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cool. And you said after race, you just got a good set, and you were just flowing with it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like I didn't have to carve off much. Whereas before, like, when you have a bad race or like lose your rhythm, you have to carve off and reset and find a new bump. And it just felt like I was in the right place. And I don't think that has to do with me. I think just kind of, you're in the right place at the right time. So
Yeah, it all comes down to like the decisions you make, and I feel like that's ocean sports. It's sometimes you can't put a foot wrong, and other times you you can't put a foot right. You can't get it right. I feel like well, you had a great race the whole time, but I felt like I had a good start at the beginning. I had a good start. I was I was couldn't put a foot wrong. I just kept like the first 2 kilometers. I feel like I was on a set, like riding a bump, and then sort of held it, and then yeah, the rest was history. I sort of lost it, just momentum lost. I was actually chatting to Andrew after the race, and he said he kind of likes coming from behind because he feels like he builds his momentum throughout a race rather than like having a good start. By having a good start, you're at the front and you can't actually see. You can't see so for you example, once you're in front, if you took the wrong line, say you went inside and we went outside and we caught up to you, you wouldn't know we caught up to you until we were in line with you, so to speak.
yeah.
Whereas by being behind, you can say, okay, I'm going to try inside, I'm losing ground, I'm going to try back outside, I'm gaining ground. So there's that advantage where you kind of can figure that out, which it was I'd never even thought of it that way, but Andrew was like, yeah, it's not such a bad thing having a bad start.
Andrew's a competitor for sure. And if you got that dog in you like he does, you want to hunt people down. It's exciting. You're like, I'm going to go and get this guy. And that's like the best part about being an athlete and being competitive. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the race, and it actually, not so much this one, but in Western Australia we had good conditions, but it was less swell. It was more like wind shot, and more like not a bay run, but it was like you need to work harder. It was more of a cardio game. It was like, I'm not sure how you found Paddler compared to the channel crossings, but personally I found Paddler more of a sprint, I guess, more of a cardio game. I had to pump harder to try to get a better result.
The end was terrible. I thought, I don't know about you, but I was struggling to get to the finish line for the Paddler. I made it, but I was like, that's probably the hardest I've had to work. Yeah.
But even from like the outside, I think because we're on the shore rather than between channels, the energy is a bit less. And so I felt like for that distance of a race, we could actually pump faster than the bumps were going. Yeah, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So whereas the channel crossing, like, I mean, the top guys were pumping faster than the bumps were going too, I think, but which is super impressive. But even you're tapping into the energy more, and you're working less hard per kilometer, I guess is the best way to put it. So I did like a bit of a vlog kind of thing saying, is this the way we want racing to be going, more of the cardio thing, and coming from your background, I'm sure that's how you want it, which I think I totally respect, and I don't think it's wrong. I actually think it's right. The more I think about it and process it, I think we should have that as fast as you can go is the best, is the fastest, and that's the race. But what do you think of having a secondary kind of race? And we could even have it like you did. We did that race or the run on Saturday and then the race on Sunday. What if the run on Saturday was a race, but it was combining speed and surfiness? So there's this John Mann from the Netherlands. His friend has created this leaderboard where it combines speed, but also what he terms as surfiness. So it's like if it's a 10-kilometer run and you do 10 kilometers, you get 0% score because you literally, the distance you did was the distance you did. It was the straightest line. So, but if you do 10 kilometers, if it's a 10-kilometer run and you do 20 kilometers, you've doubled the run, you get 100% score. And that's pretty radical, but like say it's somewhere in between, say it's 15.
Yeah.
So you get a 50% surf score, so to speak. What do you think if you had a race where, like, obviously it's hard to know what your surf score is, but it wasn't the fastest person that won, but it was the fastest person with the surf score above, say, 40%. Like, do you think that'd be an interesting format?
I need that idea fleshed out a little more. It sounds
So
you just want to be up on foil,
up on
whoever's
foil,
up on foil the longest.
like it's encouraging turning and surfing downwind more. So it's
Yeah, that would be a totally different
totally different.
thing, though. I would think
It'd be a
like
completely different discipline, and it'd be
yeah,
like so the race. So it's like say the race that's on the best day of wind, but the surfiness race would be the secondary day, and it'd be a combination of distance and speed. Sorry, no, surfiness and distance. I guess it makes sense. So it's speed, distance traveled, which ideally you're carving down the coast rather than straight lining down the coast is the idea.
yeah. Do other can I relate this? Can we relate
Sure.
this to any
Yeah.
other like event? Like, is there a OC1 paddle guys that do something like this,
No,
or are there
nothing in paddling.
sailing
No, nothing in paddling.
sailing guys?
No, it's completely
Oh,
different.
okay.
But I think, but I don't know about you, but like you learned through surf foiling, and how do you
Yeah.
find your downwind race lines compare to your surf foil lines, or how do you compare your fun downwind runs to your training downwind runs? Are they the same thing, or are they different?
Oh, yeah, they're fully different. Yeah. One, I'm just going straight mowing down bumps, and the other one, I'm having fun talking with the boys and just chi-hooing and having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to try like the whole idea of the race is how do we incorporate the fun with the game rather than straight
Yeah.
line. And I don't think there needs to be that, but to grow the community of downwind foilers, I think it would help. I think it'd like the majority of people that are downwind foiling or learning to downwind foil right now probably aren't looking at races thinking, I want to do that one day. They're thinking, I want to downwind so I can surf down the coast. Like if I'm getting into downwind foiling right now, I'm doing it to surf down the coast, not to go as fast as I can down the coast. I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's the majority of people. That's why I got into it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. I mean, that's how I got into it too, surfing down the coast. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see, I would love to see a race like this put on and see how it works and how it would be scored or judged or
Yeah, well,
I don't know. Yeah.
Simeon, the flow show, did that end up? Is that happening? Has that happened?
No, I think the conditions weren't good enough, and I forget what happened, but yeah, we never ended up doing that.
Yeah, but I guess that's the essence of it. That's essentially what it is, but the idea is to take out the subjectiveness of who's turning, like to judge it. Pretty tricky, like drone and like you
Yeah.
could miss people. So by taking out that side of things, you can just have it's black and white. It's statistics.
Yeah.
You know? So if we're all
No, I
using
think that's,
yeah,
yeah, I think this is an amazing idea. I think it's a great idea. I just don't think it should be put like in comparison to the M2O
oh
race. And like,
no.
oh, whoever won the surf one also, like, you add up the score. I don't think that's, yeah.
The other ends of the spectrum, they're completely different.
Yeah. Then yeah, of course. Then that would be awesome.
Could always
Yeah.
be the fastest A to B, and
Yeah.
the surfiness thing is more about building the community and the I guess the stoke the vibe it's to build
Yeah.
that and I totally agree that I guess the comment after the race wasn't so much about M2O, especially looking back at now, I can see how it was taken that way. But it wasn't about M2O. M2O is the pinnacle of racing, which is
Yeah.
how fast can we go from A to B. The thought was for people getting into the sport, is that the pinnacle of their version of downwind foiling? And
Yeah.
my view was that it's probably not, because a lot of people will actually be scared off by people that are trying to go as fast as they can down the coast. because all they want to do is surf down the coast or surf down between islands or whatever it is. That was,
Yeah.
and I can see how it was misconstrued, and it was.
No. Yeah. No, that'd be great. I mean, everyone loves surfing down the coast. So it would be
Yeah,
awesome to organize a specific event for that.
it's essentially just a fun run, but you're trying to create some form of competitiveness from it, and having a. I guess we don't need to have a champion for that, but it'd be kind of like, right, I'm competitive, you're competitive. It's nice to sort of say, okay, if I can turn more, and if I use this foil, I'll be able to turn more, but I'll still be able to go fast enough. And you're going to try to get, say you need to get like 30% extra on the run. So 10 Ks, you need 13 kilometers. 10K A to B, you need 13 kilometers. So you could try to measure it and be like, okay, I need to get to this distance.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go too far over that distance because then I'm going to. So it's a bit of tactics. It's almost like a bit of chess, which I don't know. As a competitor, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think making it as objective as possible would be the best, making sure like it's as straightforward. And when it becomes subjective and people are like, oh well, that turn was better, and then it becomes a little bit more complicated to judge. But if you make it as specific and like, okay, you need to do, that's why it's easy to do a downwind race, because A to B fastest,
Yeah.
whereas
Exactly.
something like this is, yeah, ironing out how to get it as specific and objective as possible would be, if you want to make it competitive.
If exactly, and it's
Yeah.
whether that's important or not, I think isn't so important. But it's how do we get people to sign up for a race that they don't want to race in? Because doing like M2O or even M2M and like the races may be daunting for a lot of people. I know there are a bunch of people learning to downwind in the southern state in Australia, Victoria, who aren't interested in racing because they don't want to go as fast as they can. They want to turn, and if they go as fast as they can, their 45-minute car shuttle each way means they've only got 20 minutes of foiling. Whereas if they surf for
Yep.
as long as they can, they might get an hour. They might triple their time in the water. And I think and Oscar actually did a post the other day, and he was talking about how he's like just trying to surf down the coast because he can make a 20-minute run 40 minutes.
I think we all think like that, where it's a 3-hour ordeal to shuttle cars, but you want to
Yeah,
make the most and go as far out and as far in as you can to get as
yeah,
much foil time as possible. Yeah.
yeah. So good. So I hope I've explained that right so other people can
No, you
listen.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope we get a bit of momentum. And I'm chatting to John Mann about it too, because his friend has got this app, and you just upload like a file, like a GPX file, and it can calculate your fastest kilometer. It can calculate what is he calling it? It's like surfiness, or I'll see if I can bring it up actually because it's pretty interesting. Might be better to explain it. Um, where it is. So let me share my screen. I think it's a cool thing. So um, you got your global top 10, so your fastest runs, or first fastest kilometers on rut, and then we got Kane at 133, and then you got your global top 10 most surfy, so extra distance, and again Kane's winning it, but
Wow.
55%. So we can probably look at the actual run as well. No, that's not the run. It's his Instagram.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Just as the distance. But yeah, so it has all the different runs that so Kane, Gabriella, a bunch of Hobie's doing it. I think there's even a Sister Maliko. Be cool if you could see, if you clicked on this and you could see the track. I think that'd be the only thing I'd like to see. But then you can go to you go to Hawaii, and you got Hawaii Kai. I think Hobie and Gabrielle are the only ones that have uploaded, and John. But kind of a cool little leaderboard just to sort of show you what people are doing on certain runs. So check it out. Anyway, race
Yeah,
downwind.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have a few more people go to upload their runs on that. But yeah, that's the idea. That's where the idea came from. And
What's the name of the app, or shout it out? What's the name of the app?
it's
Or
race.downwind.app. So
okay.
I think it's just a website, but maybe it's an app too. But I'll put it in the notes as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I also want to talk about a bit of a contentious issue following the race. Josh kind of, put the cat amongst the pigeons, asking if he should disqualify those that didn't wear a life jacket for the Northern Beaches race, because it was it was a mandatory. It was a thing we had to wear for insurance, basically, and for the race to happen, we had to say that riders were going to use life jackets. And Nick, you didn't wear a life jacket, but I don't think, I'm not sure the discussion you had with Josh or what, but you don't have to wear them in Hawaii, and so you weren't going to just buy one for one race. What do you think about that whole topic?
Yeah, well, first off, safety is the most important thing. You don't want someone hurting themselves and sinking, or like having any sort of issue with liability, and you don't want to ruin the sport of foiling. You want it to keep growing, and safety is the most important part of that. I will say one of the race organizers kind of nonchalant, I know it was in the rules to wear one, nonchalantly said, "Oh, you don't need to wear one."
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Someone had told us, "Yeah, you don't need to wear one," and that's why I didn't wear one. I do have one.
Which is important information to know. Like if a race official says you don't need to wear one, then you wouldn't expect to be disqualified after the fact of the race happening. So that's important.
Yeah, I won't say who. They're just like, you don't need to wear one, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then what was I going to say? Oh yeah, just about being in Hawaii. We don't wear them in Hawaii. A lot of people don't wear them in Hawaii. It's not because we disregard safety. It's we grow up, we're around watermen, and we become watermen, and you understand the risks and the safety and the environment before you step out there and do a Hawaii Kai run. You're not just going to go. Me and Simeon, we talked about this a lot, but we know what we're getting into. We understand the situation, the danger. It's part of the culture, I would say, being Hawaiian. And not saying safety is not important. We're not throwing that out the window. It's just kind of understanding the situation we're putting ourselves in, and understanding what the worst case scenario and things that can happen. But yeah, no, safety is the most important thing. And I'll wear one next time to make sure.
Yeah. And I think that's probably I think it's totally fair. Like for me, I feel like I don't need to wear a life jacket every single run, but I do my best to, because people look at me and what I do, they do. Like I guess we're leaders in the sport, and it's more that if someone learning sees that I'm not wearing a life jacket, then they're like, well, I don't need to wear a life jacket. And in some ways that's completely wrong, because I've been in the ocean doing ocean sports for pretty much my whole life, and downwind paddling offshore for 10 years, so whether I wear a life jacket or not is based on my experience, which is exactly what you're saying, Nick. It's based on the experience that I've accumulated over time, and I make a call on that depending on the situation that I'm in. For someone that's new, that's into the sport, who has zero experience offshore paddling or foiling, I don't think you have the right or you don't have the experience to make the call, basically. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, Nick. Like if you're out there and and it's a big day, yeah, I'll wear a life jacket. And I think for me that's the safest thing. But if it's a 10 knot, basically flat ocean, it is not zero risk, but it's a much smaller risk for me, and I can make the call based on a bunch of different factors. In saying that, I do, if I've got a life jacket in my car and I haven't forgotten it, I do try to put it on because I like the pockets. I think the pockets are really handy. Also, if I'm getting filmed, I always try to wear a life jacket, because if I feel like getting filmed is like promoting the sport, and promoting the sport it's a part
setting
of
a good example.
Setting a good example, which and I totally see why. Like I see both sides of it, but I think it is important that like even leg ropes, and for me, it comes from a bit of a different place, because I was in Hood River for a SUP race pre-COVID, and there was a paddler there. I didn't know him, but there was a paddler there who was competing in the race coming up that weekend, and he actually drowned because he wasn't wearing a leg rope and he wasn't wearing a life jacket. He also wasn't a very good swimmer. It was the reports he should have been wearing both. And like to have someone pass away, in a an area that you're doing a race was pretty rattling. I didn't know the guy, but I knew people that knew him, and it was so for me, it's always like, well, if I can save one life because I wear a life jacket, that's bigger than anything else. So that's where it comes from me. But for me, that's why it hits home a little more because of that. But yeah, I think it's a good discussion to have on safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is a good, I mean, safety is, I'm not going to disregard it and say it's not important. So yeah, it is just, it is important, especially if you're, not a good swimmer and not knowing the waters and understanding the situation you're putting yourself in. Yeah, you got to wear a life jacket.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And look, here it's always a funny one too, because again, from the SUP days, if we were doing a surf race in and out through the waves, you didn't have to wear one, because the idea was if you're having to go under a wave, you don't want to be wearing a life jacket. But then if you're offshore, you should be wearing one because you're not going under waves. Was the idea? But it's a weird one. Like, it's a grey area. Like, some people hate them, some people use them all the time, and it's the biggest thing.
They make good ones. They make good ones that don't really get in the way. I don't know if yours feels like you get in the way, but like,
no, mine doesn't. I like mine. Yeah, like I said, I wear mine because I like the pockets. It's like, it's convenient. I always laugh at Simeon because he's always got his bum bag, and he's got his selfie stick, and and I'm like, man, you just need to get like a life jacket. And it's like everything's there. But in some places, some people complain about the extra heat that a life jacket can create. So wearing that padded foam can. Yeah, I'm not gonna encourage people to have excuses for not wearing life jackets, but they can be hot. So that's why some people don't like them. But I wear them all the time. I won't say every single time, but as often as I go out of my way to get my life jacket, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the biggest issue with the reason I wanted to bring it up was because the sort of I guess the biggest issue was the official saying don't worry about it, and then another official asking if they should be disqualified. And I think the whole point of Josh's post was to highlight safety, have a discussion around safety like we are now. And that was all it was. It wasn't meant to.
No, I didn't take it the wrong way. I didn't really care. Yeah. I mean, safety. Yeah.
You already walked home with a $750 check. They weren't taking it off you.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I had a bit of a discussion with Josh about this because he wanted to have prize money for the race. Was the prize money a factor for you coming over to Australia for the race?
Yeah, I'll say it was. Yeah, I mean, it's always nice. I honestly didn't think I was going to win, but just being like having an event that's official and has prize money, and it's a little more exciting to be like, oh, I could win something, Yeah, and that is a factor, especially coming from Hawaii.
Sure.
It's a longer distance to travel, and you might have deals as well with your sponsors if you get top in certain races as well. So those are factors, and money is always a factor.
I'm glad because I was saying to Josh, I'm like, I'm not sure it's a factor for like that many people, and like only realistically only the top 3 get any money. So it's like, if 10 people fly in, 7 could be upset they didn't walk away with money, and it's obviously you can't be upset. It's a race, but I'm glad that the money helped assist you coming over for the race, because that was the whole goal of it. If we have a prize money, then it credibility, bit of pocket money,
Yeah, I would have came either way though. It was, a chance to go to Australia and foil, and my girlfriend came with me. We hung out and got to do some sightseeing. So we made a trip out of it. So
I saw you went to the zoo. You see zoos and stuff, and
my girlfriend's a vet tech, so she loves animals. Everywhere we go, whether it be Japan, Europe, in this case Australia, she was like, okay, we need to see koalas, we need to see kangaroos, and we got to pet them, hold them, feed them, and that gives me some brownie points. When she's shuttling us for the rides, I give her a little bit of what she wants in exchange for some shuttles.
Yeah. No, it's the balance, man. I know it well. It's the shuttles aren't for free. That's for sure.
She's awesome. She was a champ. especially for us driving on the opposite side of the road. It was a little confusing, and yeah, got
How
out of
did
the airport. I was like, oh, like trying to figure out how they do this. And then they just gave me a car. I had never driven on that side of the road, and the Hawaii license was good enough. And I was like, I think you guys should like teach us how or say something.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's the same for us Aussies when we go over there. I've definitely driven through like a set of traffic lights and come through the on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
I was in Maui and actually with the my old sort of brand sponsor JP, and I was driving and I know we were going to get lunch or something, and we pulled out of like by the harbour, and I pulled into the wrong like the oncoming traffic. There's no cars coming, luckily, and I just because there was a gas station. So I pulled in, I sort of went in like from the wrong side of the road, and they were like, "Holy!" They were like freaking out.
Yeah.
But it's just like a lapse in concentration in a quiet road is harder than a busy road, I feel like.
Yeah, because you can just follow cars on a busy road. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
No, it was complicated our first couple hours.
yes, especially that coming from the airport to I guess the northern beaches is there's a there's a bit of there's a bit to navigate, I guess. There's a bit of traffic.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we loved it. Everyone was so nice. Australia was awesome. Yeah, we want to come back for sure.
I was so stoked that you guys came out for two reasons. One, you could see what we how like our downwind conditions, but also it legitimized like what we're doing and the racing that we're doing, and I don't know, hopefully it's an annual thing this race, and hopefully get conditions like we did all the time because last year we had a race the exact opposite. We went from like
Need to
yeah,
yeah.
Avalon from in a northerly instead of a southerly wind. So we get that all the time. Like normally we get you're actually lucky that you had like the 5 days you were here, the wind was the same way. Normally we get wind like 3 days, wind one way, and then sort of no wind, and then wind the other way for 2 days, and then wind back the other way. So it's like it's you guys always the reverse runs that I guess you guys get rarely. We get like weekly here in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really different.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's so rare for us here to have it's like a novelty thing to do it.
yeah, yeah. It's actually just the other day, a bunch of us did a run from basically Avalon back to where Longreef, and then a southerly, like a cold front came through, southerly change, and we literally waited for the wind bumps. So basically, a shuttled us downwind. We went one way, and then waited like half an hour, and then went back the other way, like all in one
way.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, right? Like it's the dream.
Yeah,
but that's happened twice actually in the last 2 weeks. So it's just sort of the time of year. Yeah,
that would never happen in Hawaii.
No, it'd be really hard to do. Yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about, Nick? I feel like I've enjoyed the chat, but anything you want to bring up that I guess we haven't covered?
I'm excited for this year. I think there's going to be even more. I just see more and more foilers, probably in Australia too, but in Hawaii, there's just tons of people picking up sup foiling, and their big goal is the M2O or the M2M, and just do that series. And I thought this sport was going to plateau, and it's still just growing exponentially. And we have the Florence brothers now being part of it, and they're secret sending all the time, and I'm like, oh, they might jump in these races, and that would exponentially blow up our already exponential sport.
Yeah.
And
do you think like for me, I love downwind foiling more than surf foiling, not because of I feel like they're pretty similar to me, but in terms of like promoting something, I prefer to promote downwind foiling because the more people that downwind, the more lifts, the more shuttles, and it's not going to make a spot busier. Like a downwind run. I haven't yet experienced a downwind run, except for maybe Molokai to Waihi with all the boats. There hasn't been a downwind run where there's too many people out there. It's more the merrier at this stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You take 10 seconds to get up behind the next person, you're so far apart already.
Yeah.
So, you have the whole ocean. So I always encourage people to downwind, because instead of surfing for 20 seconds, they're surfing for 30 minutes, and it's just mind blowing. You can just surf.
Yeah. It's so good. It's and that's it. It's that surfy downwind. I don't know. That's the whole reason, that discussion earlier about the percentage and the surfiness versus speed. I think there's something there. I think we should try to do it maybe when we're in Hawaii. I'm actually coming over in June. I'll chat to John Hearn and see if we can organise like a Hawaii
Are you
kayak.
staying? Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
staying till July, the races?
Yeah. I'm going to stay till July.
Oh.
I'll do like a month early.
Yeah.
Pumped. I'll be on Maui, but I'll definitely be trying to get over to Oahu at least once or twice. Yeah.
The kids coming, family coming too?
Yeah, the whole family. So I'm stoked because last year they didn't come. So this year I'm like, well, let's make a trip of it, and we can just do like a bit of a family holiday, and it'll be less intense, like less just like race training, and it'll be hopefully by June all the hard work should be done, right? And then just be enjoying the few downwind runs and a bit of family time. Should be nice, and that should be good.
Oh, it's awesome you bring your family. That's the best part of it.
It's a dream. Like it's a dream come true. They came in 2023 and 2024. I thought it'd be. I don't know. It was fine last year too. It was great, but it's just different. You're having a call and FaceTime and having the family there is it's going to be great. So I can't wait.
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to see who's going to show up at our races. I mean, I hope some big names show up. So
I think I was actually, let's talk about that. So 2023, I think we had like 50 foilers or 60 foilers. 2024, we had like 100 foilers. Like I'm talking downwind, or like 80 foilers downwinders. I don't know, maybe like 90 actually. There are a lot. Anyway, it's almost doubled from 2023 to 2024. Do you think it's going to double again? Like, is it going to get like? Are we getting 120 this year? 140? And
that's for M2O you're talking about specifically?
I guess all the races. I'm just talking M2O. I think they should probably max it, but like for M2O, I think do you think? I guess the reason I ask this is because I think in Hawaii you're going to get a lot of people who want to do the race, and it's easier for you to do the race if you're in Hawaii than if you're from Europe or Australia. But I think a lot of people from overseas, or not from Hawaii, sort of had M2O or M2M, all those races as a bit of a bucket list item, and they've done it now. And I question how many are going to come back and do it again. And you know what I mean? I was sort of concerned after chatting to a few people who did it. They're like, maybe I probably can't afford to do it next year because I wanted to do it.
It's expensive.
Yeah. So I guess the answer probably is that if there's more people in Hawaii doing it, then it's just going to have more locals doing it and less internationals doing it potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just I can't imagine like 2 weeks you have to be here at least. If you don't, and then place to stay, flights to Maui, flights to Molokai, and it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah,
but no, I hope more people. I think at least more locals. I don't know about the other markets and the other places, but I know more locals are going to be out there for sure.
That's good. That's I think the most important thing, because I think if the locals are doing it, it grows it just as well as international people doing it, and I hope that the international people have their own races that become big enough that it's like a Molokai to Oahu, like or an equivalent, like just a good local race, like we had here in Sydney, So I hope more races pop up. And
did you see the Corzone race? You kind of have a flag next to where the country they're from, and for Molokai to Oahu, there's like 1 or 2 French flags, and I saw the Corzone race, and it was like 100 French flags, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people out here that are potential racers. I mean, they are racers over there, but I'm not part of that world. So
exactly. I think there's a whole. It's so cool. It's so cool right now. I love where downwind foiling is at the moment, and I hope we continue to grow it in a way that encourages more people to continue doing it. Is I guess the best way to phrase it. I think, like you said, I'm excited. I'm super excited. I did like a rankings, which was more just to sort of get people excited, talking about it, and like have their try to get more people to races and get more people like wanting to travel for races. I got a bit of advice from people, and we've actually created a bit of a committee. I need to do a call to sort of finalize a few things, but we want to basically get like a list of races for each year. And I'm already behind the eight ball, but I just use races from last year. But I want to get a list of races from for each year and sort of have it so that people have it on their radar, so that it's easy to find a cool race to do, rather than at the moment it's, M2O is the most well-known one, but there's races, like there's a race in Guadeloupe last weekend, the race, and there was a race in Sydney 2 weekends ago, and there's race since posting. A guy said there's a race in Florida, and they do like a 20K downwinder, because I mentioned about the Florida Surf Race League. And he was like, he goes, that's not downwind. He goes, we've got a 20K downwind race here. So I didn't know about it. And so having the conversation puts them on the map. And then maybe if I'm doing a trip to Florida, I'll try to time it for the race, and that's what I'm excited about, for sure.
Yeah, I hear about a lot of these races after they've been run, like the Guadalupe one. Yeah, I didn't know about it until after, like, media was posted about it.
Yeah. I want it to be known beforehand and get as many of like I want more Hawaii things to happen other than Hawaii, because at the moment it's epic that everyone goes to Hawaii, but it's just 1 month or 1 week of the year,
Yeah.
So if we can have, like you guys came down to Sydney, you made it more legitimate. You guys went over to Crozon and you made that, like, not you, but like the Hawaiian crew. And so it just makes it, it's just, I don't know, it makes a bit of a circuit, and it makes it like you sort of got your downwind foil family, and you can just sort of go to different races and experience different things and froth out on all the gear and the conditions and have cool experiences.
Yeah, no, we're definitely blessed. I'm always so grateful to just go travel with my friends and foil, and just, it's the coolest thing in the world. And
actually, I didn't even ask. So what are your plans for this year?
I'm going to most of the races. I have the budget to go to France, to Gorge, I hope they change the Gorge race. I think it's during the M2O week. But
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously Oahu, and then France, Oregon, all of I think the main bigger races I'm going to.
So. Are you going to come to Western Australia? It's like
Is there a race over there?
Yeah. So there's a week where we have about 4 races, and I actually just got a call from one of the event organisers the other day, and basically there's the West Coast Downwinder. This is November, so middle of November through to the first week of December. So put it in your diary. There's the West Coast Downwinder is the big one, but there's also midweek races called the Triple S. So it's the Sunset Surf Ski Series. They include foilers. Last year we had like 30 or 40 foilers in that race, in the small ones, and like close to 50 for the West Coast Downwinder. I might be rounding up. But there was we had a fun run where we had 80 foilers sort of,
wow.
And it was just like, we didn't count. We counted we filmed it, and we just had like a bit of a fun run. But yeah, November in Perth, Western Australia, it's probably the furthest away for most people. It's far enough away for us, even on the East Coast. But it's consistent wind. They get they call it the doctor. So trade winds that blow southwest, and it's always the same direction. And so there's 2 big races: the West Coast Downwinder and the Doctor. The Doctor is from an island just about 20 k's offshore, and you downwind from the island back to the mainland. And we haven't been allowed in the race the last couple of years because it's predominantly a surf ski race. But I just had a call from the event organizer, and they're opening it up to foilers this year. So it's going to be there's two good 30 to 35 kilometer races that are going to be on in a week. A week's So it's
I mean, hopefully they post enough to remind me during the month before, so I can plan it. But my girlfriend wants to go there. That's apparently
Your girlfriend would love the quokkas, and you've got to Google it. But they're like these little, like mini kangaroos / wombat sort of looking things, like possums almost. But they're like, people get selfies with them. They only live on this island called Rottnest Island, and
No
it's
way.
yeah, they're the cool. They're like almost they're kind of big rats in some,
Yeah.
but they're super cute. And Rottnest Island's a cool place to. If you're in Perth, you should go to Rottnest Island for sure.
Okay. Good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know.
So now you got an excuse to come over and see the quokkas, and maybe it'll line up with a certain race. Who knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the other one you got to add to your calendar for sure. The WA Race Week. So it's yeah, it's a I think it's like 10 days of racing. If you come for 10 days, there's 5 races. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a
Good
fun
to
one.
know. Yeah.
So we have to
Write
get some.
down.
Yeah, we also have you if you come over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. You're looking at France, obviously. Saint Tropez probably is on the radar after last year's conditions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Crozon. I can't get unlucky twice in a year, but back-to-back years, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for good conditions there. There's actually a race in Barcelona in May if you're looking for places to go. Um, I'll I'll post it in the notes for this podcast, but it's part of the Euro Tour, and Xavi from Spain, he said there's 2 races that are consecutive weekends where people he's trying to get people to fly in for both races basically. So I don't know, but there's plenty of racing going on. We just got to get there, so which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay.
You got a busy
Yeah. That'd
year.
be cool.
You have to go because
Yeah.
I can't go to everything because I got the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, exciting. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think we wrap up. But anything you want to leave everyone with? Any words of wisdom? Any even
No,
just
just start foiling. It's the best thing ever. Yeah. It's
yeah,
awesome. Get to see the world, get to have a great community, and yeah,
yeah,
that's it. Love it.
yeah, perfect.
So thanks for having me. And yeah, no, this is awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, promoting the sport. Like everyone knows James Casey podcast, and
Yeah, yeah.
no,
I gotta get it
keep
going
doing what you're
again.
doing.
It's been a little while, but it was
Yeah.
a good excuse to get you on and chat to you more. And I know I'm excited to hear you. You know, you're looking to go to a bunch of places to race, and I'm excited to come over to your hometown and do some racing too. And yeah, as you said, I'm excited for this year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Nick. I'll chat soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Catch you.
All right, have a good one. Thanks for having me.